I was 7, maybe 8, at another child's birthday party. We were sitting in a circle, and one by one, everyone was saying something lovely about the birthday boy. Happy birthday, you are so kind, you are such a good friend. And I had felt it coming around to the circle, getting closer and closer to me. And all of a sudden, everyone was looking at me, and my mind went completely blank. I didn't know what I was supposed to say, so I said the first 2 things that came into my head. I said, "He was right, but sometimes he stole my pencil." And the room went quiet. I can still feel those few seconds now. They were the longest seconds I had ever experienced. Nobody said anything. And then after a moment, everyone just carried on. The party went on as if I hadn't spoken at all, as if nothing had happened. But something had happened. I could feel my face going hard and red. I went quiet, and I backed away into a corner of the room. I sat there on my own. Here's the part I have never forgotten. I actually didn't know in that moment what I had done wrong. I couldn't have told you what a rule that I broke, but I knew somehow from those few seconds of silence that I had done something really wrong, that something about what I had just said, something about me was wrong. And after a little while, sitting there in that corner by myself, I left the party. I was 7 years old, and I had just learned a lesson that would take me more than 3 decades to unlearn. What that little girl learned in those few seconds of silence wasn't really about a birthday party. It was much bigger than that, and much harsher. She learned that there was something wrong with her, that she couldn't trust her own instincts because the honest thing she had said had somehow been the wrong thing. She learned that she had to watch herself all the time so that it would never happen again. She didn't have the words for any of this at 7 years old. She just absorbed the verdict and carried on. And that verdict grew up with me. It became a voice, and that voice has been with me most of my life. When I say the wrong thing or when I replay a moment that went badly, the voice starts. "Katie, why are you so naive? You haven't learned an inch of what other people of your age already understand. Why can't you be like others who so clearly have more social grace than you?" Of course, people would prefer another friend than you. Just look at you. You are not as funny. You are not as knowledgeable. You are not even as mature. Notice what that voice does. It takes one single thing, one awkward comment, one social mistake, and it turns it into a verdict about my own entire worth as a person. One wrong sentence becomes proof that I am less than everybody else. And I believed that voice. For decades, I thought it was just telling me the truth about myself. If I noticed a friend being a little distant, even slightly, I would go back through every conversation we had had, replaying it, examining every word, trying to work out where I had gone wrong, because I had somehow taken the responsibility of making sure no one was ever offended by me. And whenever I feared I had, the inner critic would arrive right on cue to remind me that I was still that awkward little girl at the party who said the wrong thing and made the whole room go quiet. The change didn't come from a book or a technique. It came from other people. After my diagnosis, I started seeking out neurodivergent communities just to be around people who are wired like me. One day, one of those new friends was going through a really hard time. They felt they had got something wrong, and they were convinced that they were being too much. And without even thinking about it, I comforted them. I told them that they were not being fair to themselves, that they were not seeing the full picture. I reminded them of their strengths, all the things that they had forgotten about themselves in that moment of feeling small. And I did it gently and patiently. And I stayed with them so that they wouldn't feel so alone in it. And somewhere in the middle of saying these words to them, something in me went quiet. Because I had been in almost exactly their situation only a little while before, and the way I had spoken to myself about it was the opposite of everything I was saying to them. The same struggle, two completely different voices. All the tenderness went to this friend. All the contempt went to me. And I had never once noticed I was doing it. And suddenly, I couldn't defend that inner critic anymore. There was no version of it that made sense. That was the day I decided to become a friend to myself. Here's what that actually looks like, because it's not what I had expected. I don't fight that inner critic. I don't see her as my enemy, because I have come to understand what she actually is. She is a protector, but a misguided one. She believes that if she tears me down first before anyone else, she's keeping me safe. She's been doing it since I was 7 years old. So when she starts speaking now, I try to engage her. I thank her for trying to look after me. And then I will be honest with her. I tell her, the way you speak to me is not kind. What you are saying is not quite accurate. If you really want what's best for me, this is not it. I see it now clearly. Every attack that the inner critic has ever made, not funny enough, not mature enough, none of it was ever really aimed at adult me. It was aimed at my younger self, that little girl at the party. The inner critic has been punishing her for one innocent, honest comment for more than 3 decades. So I go back for that little girl. I go back to that corner where she sat alone. And I don't leave her sitting there on her own anymore. I sit down next to her. I put my arm around her, and I look at her and tell her the truth. I tell her that I adore her honesty, that she refused to say something untrue just to fit in, and that is not a flaw. She was holding on to something precious. I tell her it was never her fault, that the room wanted something different from her. She didn't say it to hurt anyone. She said what was true because she didn't want to lie. That is not a bad child. That is a good one. And I tell her, if some people can't see past one small innocent comment, you are allowed to let them go. Because you have me now. I am staying. You don't have to be perfect to be worth loving. You are loved exactly as you are by me and by everyone who can see who you are. You are not alone in that corner anymore. I want to be honest with you that the inner critic still comes. Some days I catch her early and I can engage with her. Other days I only notice afterwards when I have already spent hours under her judgment without realizing it. But something underneath has changed for good. I can see the pattern now. I know whose side I'm on, and I have made a decision. I intend to keep making for the rest of my life. I am going to be kind to that little girl. Even when I forget, even when I fail at it, I will keep going back to her. She waited more than 30 years for someone to sit down next to her. I am not leaving her again. So that's where I am. Still learning, still practicing, still going back to that corner some days. Now, I want to turn to you because maybe you have been listening to all this and recognizing your own voice. The replaying of conversations, the compliments you can't let in, the judge who never goes off duty. Maybe you have been living under a harsh taskmaster of your own for years. And you are exhausted in a way you have never been able to explain to anyone. If that's you, I'm not going to give you 5 steps to fix it. You have had enough people telling you to fix yourself. I would only ask you one small thing. Tonight or this week, when that voice starts on you, just notice it. That's all. Don't fight it. Don't obey it. Just notice it. Oh, that's the inner critic talking. Because you can't be a friend to yourself until you can hear the difference between your own voice and the one that was handed to you. And then, if you want to, ask yourself the question that changed everything for me. Would I ever speak to someone I love this way? There's one more thing though, something I have been sitting with since I made my peace with that little girl, because here is what I have realized. I spent 30 years hiding that little girl. That's what the masking was for. Every social performance, every calculated response, every version of me I built for other people, all of it existed to keep that little honest girl out of sight. So no room will ever go silent on her again. But if she was never the problem, then what is the masking still protecting me from? Who am I underneath it after all this time? That's the question I want to talk about in my next video. What does it actually mean to unmask after a lifetime of performing? And what happens when you slowly start letting people meet the person underneath? Until then, wherever you are today, be gentle with that little one in your corner. They have been waiting a long time. I am really glad that you are here.